minutes into 8 o'clock in Eastern United States time. So good. So welcome everybody from wherever you are. This is a little presentation about an exciting new technology. Well, it's not new technology, to be fair. However, the way it is now accessible to everybody, that's pretty much the revolutionary part of it. So some of you, I know, I don't know if you guys who I'm talking about have already their own O'Dive Doppler unit. And I mean, for these people, I mean, if you've already been using the Doppler unit, this presentation may be not really new stuff, because obviously you already know how it's working, you've been using it. However, other people who have not been, in touch or, use this Doppler, this is a little opportunity to get to know what it's actually all about. You've probably heard about this unit, and they've been on dive shows. Obviously, dive shows lately have not been very common. However, they were on the DEMA show last year in Orlando, and they were obviously the Paris Dive Show and boat show in Germany, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, personally, I'm thinking that this device is going to have a great future. I mean, great future, especially for the diving industry, because this is giving an opportunity to actually make something, I mean, a renewal, let's say, a new little revolution into the decompression theory. Because as you all know, I mean, algorithms, models are not as, they're not coming out by the bundle. The last real tested algorithm that came out was Bullman, and that became public in 1984. Since then, we only use some derivated models from Bullman. Okay, but I mean, this presentation is not going to be about that. There's, I mean, too many things to say. However, there's obviously a lot of information around and IANTD training programs to learn about that. Anyway, so this is the Azot. This is the name of the company, Azot. O'Dive Doppler. O'Dive is the name of the product, let's say. We've been using that for a few, I mean, like almost a year now, a little bit all around the world, and has been like really interesting. Everybody who's been using it, I mean, we've been guinea pigging a lot of people on this, and we also have used it on actual training programs to be able to see what the results could be with this unit, and it's very, very interesting. Okay, so let's see a little bit what actually this is all about. So first of all, good. So a little introduction. Well, we know that there's several thousands of DCS cases worldwide. And whether they are, due to technical diving or recreational diving, well, majority of these accidents actually happen while people are diving within the limits of their dive tables and dive computers. So they often are described as being undeserved or unexplained DCS. Well, no DCS case is actually unexplained. There's always an explanation. The explanation may sometimes not be clear to us, and this is actually what we're trying to do. We're trying to explain what is not explained till now. Here, a little comparison graph. Okay, this was a study that's been done by a French instructor. Okay, for his it's a thesis for the French Federation instructor. So here basically is a comparison between all the decompression requirements for a dive to 30 meters, 100 feet, for 30 minutes. And on the left side, it's in French, so it's the duration of the decompression time, so 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes. And then below, it's basically the safety factor that of the different computers. So you can find a range of computers in there. And level 0 would be no safety factor. Even on level 0, you may see that there's a variation between like about 13 minutes to 22 minutes of decompression for the same dive between divers. If the gradient factor, well, not gradient factor, safety factor here is increased, and there the differences become even bigger. So on level 1 safety factor, you would find dive computers giving you like 17, 18 minutes of decompression, while other computers would give you up to like 43 minutes of decompression. So it's like more than double. For the same dive, exactly the same profile. So, I mean, it is a little bit complicated to actually see what is appropriate and what's not. On the right side of the screen, this is actually the original US Navy table, which is still used by quite a lot of divers around the world. And I don't know if you can actually see that. It's a bit small, probably on your screen, except if you maybe have a big screen. So if you look here, you see the 30-meter depth and 30 minutes, 30 meters would actually give on the US Navy table only 3 minutes at 3 meters 10 feet. So if you compare this to the dive computers, nowadays, the dive computers are much more conservative than the actual US Navy tables. So, I mean, is the US Navy table dangerous? Is it safe? I mean, it is not necessarily clear. Okay. Trying to get out of this thing here. Good. So here, so which limit would be safe to dive? Okay, would it be the one, you know, I mean, dive for an individual diver? Would it be the one that is giving up to 35 minutes of deco, 25, 15, 5 minutes? So how do you determine which computer and which safety factor is actually going to be safe for you? I mean, this is a little bit of a complicated question, because with that great variation around, you can't really say what's going to be good for you. I mean, you can just guess and hope for the best. Obviously, safety factors are so big sometimes on computers that, I mean, they will guarantee, well, they never can guarantee no DCS, but as they are more safe, all of them, than the original US Navy tables, they can say that, well, okay, well, we're safer than any other, than the basic algorithm. Here's the same thing, but for a technical dive. So it's a 233 feet, 70-meter dive for 25 minutes. The thing is, the blue columns is for the total time to surface, okay, and the orange column is for the stop depth, the first stop depth, okay. And this is based on gradient factors. You can see on the bottom here, okay, these are all gradient factors, okay. And so basically, you can see that for the same dive again, depending on which gradient factors you're going to be using, you would have from here on the sides, okay, you have from 43 minutes of time to surface to, I don't see my mouse, okay, it's down up there, to 96 minutes of deco. So which means that gradient factors can basically very much influence the time of deco. So between, of course, 95, 99 is not much of a gradient factor. But even if you're using like a 50-80, with a 57 minutes of deco, and if you're using a 40-50, you can have 82 minutes. So it's like a whole bunch of difference in deco. So is, for that reason, a 50-80 unsafe? Okay, well, it's not really clear. We have all of our RIDs potentially on it, but it's mostly empirical knowledge, or yes. Here another dive, 330 feet, 100 meters for 15 minutes. Same thing, big variations between the different decompression times, okay, from less than an hour to more than 2 hours. Good, so with all these different variations in decompression profiles and people being able to change gradient factors in their dive computers, question is, well, okay, how can we actually get something which is more or less for sure adapted to the divers which are actually using those gradient factors. So here, this gentleman here, Christian Doppler, lived a little bit more than 200 years ago. He was an Austrian mathematician, okay, and he invented a thing which is called the Doppler effect. Some of you may know what the Doppler effect is. Others are just maybe they heard about it. Okay, so Doppler effect is an effect that allows, basically, well, actually allows. First of all, it's a observation of a change of frequency of a wave if two objects have a different changed speed compared to each other. I mean, to make it a little bit easier to understand, okay? So if we are hearing an ambulance passing by, so when an ambulance is coming towards us in our direction, okay, we hear that the sound of the siren is quite high-pitched and quite fast, like wah, 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 something like that. And when the ambulance is basically has passed by and is basically going away, then the sound of the siren suddenly kind of like becomes not as high pitched, okay, it's kind of lower, and also it slows down, it's like woo. And that's basically because as it's saying here, the sound waves, okay, basically become shorter as the object is coming closer to us and longer as the object is moving away. So this is how basically, I mean, you have the same thing with, for example, Formula One cars. Formula One cars that pass by is like, wow. So you actually have the same sound is observed in a different way, depending on obviously how fast it goes and the distance relative to us. Good. So how is this going to be useful to us? Well, actually, not just to us, also to animals, like, for example, bats or dolphins or whales or many other animals actually use Doppler effect because they are emitting sound or ultrasound to basically navigate, mostly in low visibility, like the night for bats. And by emitting the sound, obviously at some point this sound bounces back, okay? And obviously this allows them to see, not really see, they kind of like detect obstacles to the fact that sound waves come back quite quickly. And also, because of the Doppler effect, basically the change of the sound which comes back, they can actually detect moving objects. And so in that way, they can, bat can find some flying insects in the night and basically hunt without seeing anything. And dolphins the same way, in zero visibility, they could actually detect the presence of fish and hunt and obviously, well, have dinner. We are also, humans, made for navigation, submarines, we are also using Doppler effect to basically be able to detect moving objects underwater. Island is not a moving object, obviously, but we could detect other submarines or moving objects around us. So that's how Doppler effect is used by living creatures in general. Good. So we have been able to use that concept with other things, especially us divers. We are able, actually, thanks to ultrasound waves, to basically see or make an image of, for example, the inside of our body. So ultrasounds, basically, we send in a sound wave. The sound wave bounces back on tissues and everything. We can make like an internal image. So basically, for pregnant mothers, we can see the fetuses and see if everything is okay. And at the same time, if you now use Doppler effect technology, well, actually you can determine, well, you can see moving objects. Mainly what's interesting in the medical field is, for example, to see the bloodstream. So you can actually visually see the blood moving through the blood vessels of the body and fetus in this case. Here, this technology is kind of advanced. So it's an echography with Doppler effect, which basically creates a 3D internal imagery together with Doppler effect. So it's actually 4D. You can actually see the movement of the bloodstream. So this is like kind of advanced technology, and it's also kind of expensive. This is a little bit beyond the normal budget of a diver. Studies, research in the 1980s and 90s, especially, made by Dan and other hyperbaric doctors, have been using ultrasound Dopplers, like the one you can see here on the screen. This technology basically has been sort of the reason, actually, for a lot of revolutions already in our decompression models, because at this time, before these studies, we thought, Bowman and Haldane and everybody else thought that basically we were not bubbling. As long as we did not have a decompression sickness, it means we didn't have any bubbles in the body. So they were assuming that the gas was staying into solution into the tissues and in the blood, and basically the gas exchange was basically just dissolved gas. And that's actually, Bullman, still the present algorithm that we're using. However, thanks to the Doppler and the research which has been done at that time, we found that actually that was completely wrong. And technically, every single diver pretty much makes bubbles after every single dive, because their Dopplers were able to detect bubbles, circulating bubbles, in every single diver pretty much. The device that you're seeing here, it's just an acoustic Doppler, which means that it just basically makes sounds, so like ticks. Every time there's a bubble passing by, basically the technician hears a tick, and that can be like just a few ones, like tick, tick, tick. That's already a lot, actually, if that's speed, or to a jacuzzi, like a high radioactive Geiger counter. But so this was, not very convenient, because you had to be like quite well trained medically to be able to position, first of all, the Doppler on the right place, because basically to be able to detect bubbles, you need to have a place where actually the bloodstream goes through. And in this case, well, the Doppler had to be placed exactly on top of the right atrium of the heart. So basically where all the blood of all the venous blood of the body goes through, and where you can actually have a measurement which is significant for the actual bubble count inside the body. So first of all, you had to find that place, and then when you found it, you had to be able to actually count manually the number of bubbles. So it's like you're basically counting clicks. And in the beginning, I mean, it's just like one bubble. Sometimes it's easy to measure, well, to count, let's say. While when there's like a lot more bubbles, well, it starts to be a little bit more complicated. That's why they've basically came up with grades, bubble grades, which basically are grouping, amounts of bubbles. If it's just like a bubble, sometimes it's like a grade 1. Okay, no bubbles is grade 0. And they went up to grade 4, where basically grade 4 is a continuous flow of bubbles, which is obviously the maximum that we could consider. Good. So it was not very convenient and not very easy to use. So I mean, I have been talking with Dan people in the past, many years ago, about getting one of these devices, and they said, oh my God, but this is, yeah, you can, but it's like super complicated and it's like headache. And that's why a lot of researchers have basically moved, when they could, to more advanced technology with the echography, like this one, to actually see in 3D the bubbles, well, 4D moving bubbles inside the heart. So actually, I've been participating to some of these studies, and it was quite interesting. Here, basically, this is what a Doppler, an acoustic Doppler, actually measures. So this is actually like a video. Well, video is sound. Okay, it's more sound. It's not really a video. Of a measurement of an acoustic Doppler. So the top one, which I'm going to play right now, is basically just a clean vein. There's no bubbles. There's just a heartbeat, and if you pay attention, you will as well hear the sound of the breathing at some point. So here it is. So here, the breathing. So this is what the technicians are looking for when they're using the acoustic Doppler. So basically, if they can hear the heartbeat, and they also need to be able to recognize the rhythm, because to make sure to be on the atrium and not on another place of the heart. But yes, this is what they're looking for, to be able to be sure to be actually on the bloodstream. Now, if they are looking for bubbles, and if they find bubbles, well, it will not sound as smooth and nice. But this is like a grade 3-4 bubble count here. And you see, it's going to sound quite different. So that's the information that is coming out of the Doppler. So basically just little clicks. And these clicks are, yes, so these are bubbles flying through. And okay, so this is obviously possible. It's obviously possible to kind of count it, but not like easily manually. So here, let's stop that. Okay. Hoppa. So now let's go to the actual O'Dive Doppler, and technically the O'Dive Doppler, it's also just an acoustic Doppler. So basically, it's just basically measuring, well, counting the number of bubbles flying through in the bloodstream. And the difference is that instead of basically having a technician to analyze the information, you have a computer system, which is a little bit more easy for the computer to count bubbles. Okay, obviously it has to be able to recognize the bubbles and distinguish it from background noise, like heartbeats and everything. But computer system will have an easier time to actually count bubbles. And that's basically what the system is doing. So it's basically an acoustic Doppler, which makes it not very expensive and also not very big. As you can see, it's like a little box here, where in the little box you can actually see here the Doppler sensor. Okay, this is the charger, and this is basically acoustic gel, because to have a good contact for the sound waves to go into the sensor of the Doppler. Okay, so we have a difficult time counting bubbles. This unit, because it's hooked up with a computer, has got an easier time actually listening to the bubbles and counting them. So basically determining bubble grades. So, and like I said, this system is kind of affordable in the way that there's new packages that they're going to come up with very soon. And I don't know all the package prices of them. It's like about $500 to buy a Doppler unit. There's more expensive packages for professionals, etc. I mean, also for military and medical facilities or whatever. Anyway, so this Doppler is kind of small. It's easy to use, and I mean, it doesn't need a big requirement in knowledge to actually use this properly. So how does it actually work? Let's see. Okay, I don't see my mouse here. So, there it is. Good. So, like I said, there's a sensor. Okay. So I don't know if you see my mouse here. This is a sensor. I can. And this is going to be the unit, the actual Doppler unit. There's a mirror that comes with it to actually help position the Doppler onto the right position on the body. There is some ultrasonic gel, which you may see here. Okay, I mean on the image. So that's the package. Sensor, there's a charger, a mirror, and gel. That's what the sensor is coming with. On the other side, it needs some extra an extra device to actually work. Okay, and the extra device to make it work is basically a smartphone or a tablet. Pretty much everybody's got a smartphone nowadays, and obviously this thing has a screen. And it's basically the interface to make the Doppler work, because the Doppler, I mean, makes the measurements, but it has to be collected onto a device with memory, which is the phone. And then once the information is collected, it has to be sent basically to a server where the information will be computed, analyzed, and it will be sent back by internet and allows then to actually analyze the information that has been collected by the Doppler sensor. So you need a smartphone, you need the app. There's an app which is for free, which you can download. Everybody can download that. You just go to your app store and you can download the O'Dive 1 or the O'Dive Tech app, whether it is Android or Apple, doesn't matter. You need an internet connection, and the ideal situation would be to have a dive computer, and I would say more a dive computer that has a Bluetooth connection, because then you could straight away from the phone download, well, from the computer to the phone, download the complete diving profile. Okay, so as you may have understood already, so the O'Dive Doppler emits ultrasounds, and then these ultrasounds bounce back basically on a vein, which potentially contains circulating bubbles. It receives that signal back, and I mean here specifically they've chosen to use the subclavian veins, which are located basically at the base of the arm, under clavicle, which is left and right. I mean, it's like this collarbone that we have on each side. There's like a big vein running just straight underneath that. And they have obviously done a lot of studies before they could launch this kind of product, because obviously this product is now used by many scientists around the world, like Dan, hyperbaric doctors in military, governments, and everything. So they had to be sure that obviously the information that the Doppler was getting was obviously valid. And so they have been studying if basically the measurements of the Doppler on that subclavian vein would actually be useful and representative for the bubbles in the whole body, because I mean the Dopplers previously were put on the right atrium on the heart, which is a little bit more complicated to find. Here, basically, I mean you can basically stuck it underneath the clavicle, and you would quite easily find the vein. So easy to locate this vein. The signal is quite clear because it's a big vein, and like we said, it has to be representative for the bubble count in the whole body, and actually it seems it is. So here, this is a little bit of a image of where the subclavian vein, and there's an artery behind it as well, are located. Okay, so you basically have that horizontal bone, the clavicle there, that runs over it, protecting it. Okay, so this is the clavicle, and the vein is just here. So basically, the position of the Doppler is literally here, on top of that subclavian veins. Good. Okay, so let's clear this. Good. Let's stop these annotations. So here, this is actually what the Doppler is using to make sure the Doppler is positioned properly. So basically, this is going to show on the screen of your phone when you position the Doppler, and obviously the Doppler unit is paired with the phone. This is a graph basically showing literally the sound of the heartbeat, sometimes the breathing as well. And basically, if it's not showing anything, like the bottom bar here, it means that there's pretty much no signal. If there's no signal, it means the Doppler sensor is not sensing any heartbeat, for example, which would not be normal. And obviously then we have the upper ones. I mean, on the top one is like kind of okay. If you have a real good signal, like the middle one, then you can actually see a lot of red and yellow on that bar. Actually, here I'm going to show you. Actually, this is a little video. Anyway, on the right side of the screen, there's a little video of the screen of the device. So here's going from basically scanning the sensor and everything. So scanning the sensor will then basically pair the phone together, or the tablet, with the sensor, and then from there onwards, basically it prompts, okay, what to do, saying, okay, well, put some ultrasonic gel on the sensor. Okay, I'll just show you now. Okay, it's been bugging. Okay, so here, this is the video. So it's scanning for the sensor. Once the sensor is detected, then it's asking to push on the button to start the first measurement. So place ultrasonic gel on the sensor, left measurement, because it does both left and right measurements. So now here, the sensor is placed on the body, and it's asking not to talk and breathe out deeply. And you see the signal is quite clear, a lot of red and yellow there, so you can start the measurement. So it's now prompting to breathe on a rhythm. So basically, this is to remove as much as possible background noise. So to breathe out, breathe in. So no talking allowed here. Okay, no moving, because otherwise this will give parasite signal. It will not be very helpful. Okay, once the measurement is done over 20 seconds, it's then basically saying, well, first of all, very good sensor positioning. If it was very good, it's basically giving you feedback if the positioning was good or bad. If it was bad, because sometimes it happens that the person moved, or the sensor slipped, because the ultrasonic gel may make that the sensor may slip out of place. Once the data has been collected, basically it will actually move to second measurement, because measuring is asking to measure on both the left and the right side every single time. And measurements are done basically 30 minutes usually after the dive. So that's why when you see pictures of people taking their bubble counts, like here, I mean, you typically see people on the side of the water, etc., because you don't have much time to get into a comfortable place to get your measurements. The device is so small, it's not a big deal, but it requires a little bit of organization to make sure that you actually can take the measurement half an hour after the dive. It's half an hour after the dive, and then another measurement and half an hour later, so 1 hour after the dive. If you're diving with high helium, then the measurement would ideally be taken as fast as possible after coming out. So yes, it would still be wet and everything. So okay, so this is a little advertisement. Actually, this is actually one of the advertisements that struck my mind, and then basically said, "Oh, I need to have one of those," because the computers which have Bluetooth interface, like Shearwater, they can be connected very easily to the Doppler. And so obviously it's easy to download the whole profile into the data that you're collecting. Because of that, also the sensor, the system can use all the data from the dive profile and make sure that there was no problems in the profiles. But so okay, DAC computers can be uploaded straight away into the system with the profiles, and that allows you to have a full data set. So once the data of the Doppler and from the DAC computer are both uploaded into the system, then basically you can synchronize, and the information will then be sent to a server, actually potentially at the other side of the world in France, where the data, because the software and the program is kind of heavy, So their servers are analyzing all the data, and then once they have analyzed the data, the user receives an email, and then you can synchronize again, and then you can receive the condensation of the information that the Doppler has been able to find. So basically, you will receive a screen like this with 2 bars. You will have this, the first left bar is actually the actual dive. So on this specific dive, the decompression quality index is 57. Okay, you could say it's like a percentage. So 57 is not quite good. I mean, it's a bit low, very low. And this information, this score is basically coming from 2 different things. It's coming one side from the bubbles, okay? So the black number here, so basically this black bar here, the 30, is actually the bubble count. So 30, and it's on a maximum of 40. 40 is the maximum grade of bubbles, like a full jacuzzi. While you have the other number, the 13 on the top, which is actually a number coming from the download of the dive computer. And basically this is an analysis of the safety, let's say, of the profile. So they call it a severity component. Okay, so basically, depending if there's been no fast ascents, or if the choice of mixes or decompression stops, like for example, there was not a lot of decompression done on this dive, or maybe the decompression was cut short. Decompression was cut short, and basically that would increase dramatically, and obviously make the score go down as well. So you have these total number. So there's 57 is the total decompression quality, and with 2 things, the bubble count and the severity component, which comes from the dive computer. The right bar here is different. Normally, when you receive it, it's going to be exactly the same. So you're not having 2 different bars. Actually, you can play with the second bar, okay? Because actually, like it's saying here on the top, it's a simulation. You can actually simulate, see what would have happened if you had used other gradient factors, other mixes or whatever. By the way, here there's a little video showing actually what you can do. Okay, so here, like I said earlier, the 2 bars when you receive the results are the same. So here you have a 71 quality index. Okay, so it's not too low, but it's not perfect neither. There's a 20 points of bubble grade and 9 points of severity index of download from the profile. So now, here, this little video is going to show you what's happening if you're starting tweaking the diluent mixes, because this is a repeater dive. Okay, it's a technical repeater dive. I mean, this is working not just for technical diving, but also for recreational diving. So you can change the diluent, you can change the low gradient factor, high gradient factor. You could add safety stops, deco stops, all that kind of thing. So here, I'm just running this little video. So here now, it's allowing you to select, to play on 2 different factors. Like here is changing the mix, so changing diluent. And as you make a diluent with more helium, well, you see the safety factor, the safety quality index of the dive goes up. Okay. Here you're basically putting the low gradient lower, the higher gradient lower, and you see that the quality index is going up to 90% now. It's basically eliminating the part of the aggressive profile. Still not removing all the bubbles, but you can. The idea, of course, is to encourage people to change their gradient factors. More conservative, obviously. Also to maybe for some add some helium if it's trimix dives, or nitrox, higher nitrox. and basically the simulation will like give an idea of what you could have after the dive if you had been using these and these safety factors or mixes. And obviously, again, the idea that you actually try on another dive, on the next dive, to implement these changes and make a new measurement after that dive and see how things have changed. Okay, we've been playing a lot with that, and it's been kind of interesting. So why? So we're getting to the end now here of the presentation. Okay. So why would we use personal Doppler system? Well, first of all, as you may have caught already, is that, well, you have a way now finally to get a objective evaluation of your own safety, of your own dive, to see how much you're bubbling. Obviously, the amount of bubbles in your body, well, is potentially linked to the risk of DCS. If the amount of bubbles are reduced, or even better, pretty much completely removed from the body, that would obviously decrease the risk of DCS dramatically, or even remove it completely. So you can play on that, make it safer. Also, it allows to understand the effects of different options, mixes, profiles, safety factors, gradient factors, safety stops, surface intervals, longer or shorter, and personal diving profiles, whether it is open circuit, closed circuit, recreational or technical diving. It's for the instructors out there. Well, it's an excellent training tool to show the use of different mixes, why we would use nitrox. Okay, if nitrox is actually giving a real advantage compared to air, for example, for recreational divers. Also, it's a great tool to show how gradient factors are actually working and how they can modify the decompression. And then, of course, well, you access the use of the latest state-of-the-art safe technology used by all researchers out there. Well, not all, but I mean a lot of them. Then hyperbaric doctors, researchers, military and governments are using the system. And something which is not to be neglected is that the data that Azot has been able to collect thanks to the use of this Doppler is multiplying the amount of data that we've ever had from research campaigns from any researchers, because researchers typically do campaigns of like a week, for example, and they collect data on a certain number of divers. Here now, daily, there's hundreds, if not thousands of measurements coming in every day, which is a huge amount of data. And this data, when compiled, analyzed, okay, it's a big word, will definitely lead to an improvement of the current decompression models. So we can expect potentially in the coming years, because this is not a quick process, that this information will change our dive computers or the way we dive. So last little thing. So yes, IANTD and Azot actually been working together on this. So we're very proud to be the first ones to actually have a training program for the O'Dive Doppler. Till now, I mean, and they will continue, Azot offers also, I mean, they have their technicians, they offer as well webinars, individual webinars with people. However, I mean, obviously they're having not a huge amount of staff, so if there's like many more people coming out there to get their use, it's not going to be that easy to have webinars. Plus, the webinars can be done, yes, in French, because the company is made in is French. Can be done in a limited way in English. However, if presentations have to be done, well, first in English, but also in Spanish, Russian, Thai, I don't know. We have a whole bunch of instructors out there who are able to present the information in their language. So potentially also increasing the exposure and the potential use of that Doppler worldwide. So we're very happy about this, that we are able now to offer this program, helping people to use this great unit. It's okay. Well, you can actually use this Doppler for any course. I mean, especially technical diving course. We've been using that on technical dives. After every dive, every day, we have been checking the bubbles from every single diver, and then basically between dives, change gradient factors, change the way we dive and everything. And it is very interesting to see that the profiles, the number of bubbles, etc., are basically improving between the dives, and that's kind of cool to actually see live a change into your decompression diving quality. So it's actually quite interesting and actually fun. Okay, and regarding for the training itself, if somebody has bought a Doppler, well, you as an instructor can do this based on a webinar, but they need to have an actual Doppler on hand to be able to do that. At these times, it could actually be something which helps the promulgation of this unit. Good. So that was pretty much it. So managed to not go too much over time. So now is going to be the time for questions. If anybody wants to ask any question. So anyway,
if anybody wants to become an instructor for the old Doppler, how can they do that? Of course,
well,
get in touch with you, but
pretty easy. It's pretty easy. Basically, they just well, first of all, they need to have access, so own or have limited access to a Doppler unit. Okay. And then once they have their own unit, then basically they just need to get familiar with the training materials, with obviously the materials from the manufacturer, the slideshows and exam we have. They have basically just to get to us, okay, and we're going to make sure that they do the workshop and everything with us. We do a little bit of a webinar. And then once we are sure that they're happy, I mean, and the unit, then we basically can, together with the manufacturer, approve the instructors. But the first requirement is actually having a unit. I mean, a lot of people out there already have a unit. Some of you maybe do. And so, yeah, I encourage you to basically get in touch with us, get in touch with Louise, get in touch with me, and then we'll get that done. It's not a big thing. There's no diving required. It's a webinar-based training, especially these times that nobody can travel. It's not that complicated. So that's pretty much it. Good. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. And I'm hoping that many of you are going to be interested in using this technology, maybe teaching it. And well, hope to see many of you around, hopefully diving at some point.